This is Maimonides. He's considered to be one of the greatest thinkers in all of Jewish history. But personally, I like him because he talked about fishing. You might be familiar with the saying, you can give a man a fish and feed him for tonight, or you can teach a man to fish, and he can feed himself for a lifetime. In essence, that was Maimonides. Now, lucky for me, I've become quite the fisherman recently, but I don't spend much time fishing. What I do spend my time on is philanthropy. Almost 10 years ago, I started my journey as an individual funder and joined my family's foundation board. But back to Maimonides. The reason I find his saying so compelling is because it asks us as funders to do more than just give. It asks us to enable. Now, this fishing metaphor works well when giving to individuals, but the vast majority of our philanthropic dollars today doesn't go to individuals. It goes to organizations. So how might we apply the wisdom of his teaching to our contemporary form of tzedakah? Or as Maimonides might say, how can we teach an organization to fish? I started by going back to the source. Now you can imagine my surprise when I learned that Maimonides didn't say anything about teaching, or fishing for that matter. What he did say is that we should offer a gift, a loan, a job, or a partnership that builds self-reliance. Now, when I read this, I had a little aha moment, because there was so much richness in this teaching, so much more than I had ever anticipated. And from it, I drew 3 principles that we can apply to our giving to organizations today. Those principles are respect, trust, and commitment. So let's walk through each of these. The first is respect. Now, I believe that we all have a deep respect for the nonprofit professionals who work hard every day to repair this world. Unfortunately, I don't think we all demonstrate that respect in our interactions with them. For example, just a few days ago, I was writing an email to a professional, and I caught myself because I was typing a question, and the answer to it really had little to no impact on whether or not I was going to give that organization a grant. At the time, I felt like I was doing due diligence. I was asking good questions. But in reality, I was just wasting time. A little bit of my time to type out the question, but more importantly, a lot of the time of that professional who was going to respond with a very thoughtful answer. And in reality, that answer was going to have no impact. Now, this is just one example of how we as funders create hoops for nonprofit professionals to jump through. It's time that we see each other as the mutual and interdependent relationship that we are in. That we come to the table truly valuing and respecting the unique assets and unique wisdom that each party has. Because dollars alone will not change the world. Now, I'm not suggesting as funders that we stop asking questions or we stop doing due diligence. But I am suggesting that we find organizations whose missions align with our priorities. And we build relationships with those professionals so that we can be learning partners and thought partners. And when we do ask questions or we do offer ideas, that the answers to those questions have a material impact on our giving or on the organization's work. We can also give general operating support so that the professionals have the freedom and flexibility to make the best decisions possible for their organizations. The second is trust. Now, this is more than just trusting that an organization will spend your dollars wisely. This is a mutual trust. You can imagine how hard it might be for a professional to say to one of their funders, we don't really run ourselves as effectively as we could. In fact, we have 4 databases because our technology hasn't been upgraded. And those databases, they don't talk to each other. You could see how they might be afraid that a funder might say, ooh, that leadership, that's no good. I'm going to take my dollars, I'm going to find an organization who spends their money wisely, where they know what they're doing and they run a tight ship. Now, unfortunately, this does a disservice to all of us because we all want the same thing in the end. We all want to enhance this world and make it a better place. Now, imagine how much more time that staff person would have to do meaningful work if they didn't have to enter information 4 times. Not to mention the problems that could be caused by missing information or errors in those 4 different databases. Capacity building support grants can make a huge difference. They can be long-lasting and exponential. But it's up to us as funders to recognize that organizations need these booster shots. They need help as they grow and evolve. And it's up to us as funders to let organizations know that we are willing to invest in them, that we want to help, whether it be to bring on a consultant, or improve and upgrade their technology and infrastructure, or redesign a process. We want to hear about it. The last of these principles is commitment. Now, with a job, a partnership, or a loan, those are relationships that last over time, and the same should be for us. When we make a multi-year commitment, we are signaling to that organization that we are in it with you. And not only are we enabling the professionals to better plan their budgets and have more accuracy, and reduce their stress because they have some security, but most importantly, we're enabling them to go out and find new funders and spend their time bringing new dollars to that cause that we care about, because they don't have to continually court us. It's also important to mention that we don't always need benchmarks or metrics that we as funders have set. Sometimes it's enough to just let an organization do its work. But of course, if there is some major change in leadership or direction, reserve the right to reassess your grant. But other than that, just let them do their jobs. So now, one story that ties these all together. Growing up, I went to a Jewish day school, the Littman Day School in Akron, Ohio. That's me with the dark hair at one of our school plays. Now, when I was a student, there were over 120 children enrolled. And a few years ago, it became clear that the school's viability was in question. There were less than 60 students enrolled, and it wasn't just because parents were opting out of Jewish education. And the year my nephew was born, there was only one other Jewish baby born in Akron. Now, the school's leadership came together with my family foundation to deal with this challenge. We decided to make a multi-year commitment of general operating support to help the school stay in business, and a capacity building support so that the school could bring on a consultant who would help them look for a new model. Now, we trusted as funders that there might be a model out there that, while different from a traditional Jewish day school, could still have the same impact that we wanted to have in that community. So over the course of the grant, the school could either find a new model and transition to it, or thoughtfully and planfully shut down. Now, I'm happy to say that this year there are almost 100 students enrolled, but there's a thriving dual studies program that has a Jewish track and a global studies track, and the school was honored in this year's Slingshot Guide for one of its innovative cultural exchange programs. So in closing, I ask you to consider how you might apply these principles of trust, respect, and commitment to your giving. How might you demonstrate respect for the nonprofit professionals that you engage with? What would happen if you only gave general operating support instead of restricted grants? Ask yourself, how can we start that tough conversation to let an organization know that we are willing and interested in funding capacity building support for them? Consider how a multi-year grant would affect your giving plan. Could you make a 3, 4, or 5-year commitment to an organization whose mission and professional staff you believed in? Or, as Maimonides might say, how can you teach an organization to fish?
Thanks for watching Eli Talks. Click through or subscribe to the Eli Talks channel for more inspired Jewish ideas.